Sometimes I find it really hard to prioritize books that are really long, over 500 pages, because I know I could finish 2 books in the time it takes me to finish that book. And what if it's not worth it? Like, that's so much time to give to one book. So today, I'm doing you a favor, and I'm going to tell you about 10 books that are over 500 pages that I think are worth your time. I figured this was the perfect time to do this because I'm co-hosting the amazing Readathon in June. This is a competitive team-based Readathon. Who's shocked that I'm hosting another? Where we are traveling from place to place like they do in The Amazing Race. And this year it is genre-based, so I am co-hosting Team Fantasy with the lovely Kristen from Kristen Craves Books. The Amazing Readathon is created by Brie over at 4 Paws in a Book, and I will leave her announcement video down below so that you can get all the information that is needed. Essentially, we're going on The Amazing Race. We're going city to city, and each city there's a new prompt for us to read. And when we complete that, we can also go sightseeing to get some extra points. Books over 500 pages is one of those big boy sightseeing prompts that can get you a lot of extra points. The first book I'm going to tell you about is a book that I do not talk about nearly enough on my channel, considering it's one of my favorites. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This book, I was actually surprised when I picked it up, and it's 530 pages. This is peak fantasy in my opinion. This tells the story about Ren, who is a dark-skinned, orphaned peasant from the Rooster Province, and when she aces the Keiju, everyone is shocked and say there's no way she did this without cheating. I can never remember the name of the school, so however, as per their ruling, she got a scholarship into Sinagard, the most elite military school in the Nakara Empire, but being a dark-skinned peasant girl from the south is not going to be the easiest thing for her at this school. The school is not made for her to succeed, and racism exists. We see Rin rise to the top. We see her struggle. We see her have to prove to people time and time again that she is worthy and she can make it, all while there is a military war happening. This is a military fantasy. The first half is a school setting. The second half does happen at war. This story is dark. It is based on real events at some times, and I have never met a character more frustrating but more enjoyable than Ren. I love this book, this entire trilogy, so you should definitely read it. It's definitely worth all 530 pages. Next up, we have Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler, another little baby that I love. This one comes out at 550 pages. I'm actually shocked that this is so many pages because it read so quickly. In this, we're following 2 siblings, Maya and Geyer, and when Maya's about 5 years old, the Empire comes and takes her away. She's sick and they say that they can help her and otherwise she will die. So Maya grows up within the Empire, drinking their Kool-Aid, becoming one of them, and she has the magic of the land. Geyer, however, has always hated the Empire for what they did to his family, taking his sister away. So he joins the rebellion and tries to take the Empire down. What does this mean for these 2 siblings as they meet as adults? You're gonna have to read it to find out. This is so fun. It is a little bit sci fantasy, like the elements of science and horror in this are really cool. It's got some amazing elements that I really loved. I loved the characters. It's so much fun. The sibling bond, the story of the Empire and power and everything like that. Also, the tagline for this that we always say is gay fantasy Star Wars, because it is based loosely around some Star Wars things. You'll see the Star Wars inspiration if you're a Star Wars fan and you read this. Next up, I have an indie, The Umbral Storm by Alec Hudson. This one is 570 pages. Another one that reads so quickly. I read this for Spiffbo 8, and I just had so much fun with this. This is a progression fantasy, and what that means is that your characters level up as they go. So level 3 main character could easily beat level 1 main character. Their powers just like level up, and I think it's really easy to follow the progression in this story because of how it works is shards. In this world, some people can use shards. Shards essentially go into your body and they level you up in power. Super simple. So 1 shard, you're at 1 power level. 3 shards, you're at the 3rd power level, and so on and so on. We follow our main character who has the ability to take in a shard. Then he has to go to an academy where he is trained, and he also proves his ability time and time again. At this school, if you come out on top, they will give you more shards as you go, and that's what you want. You want to be powerful. There's also different types of shards that mean different magic. There's some really cool like horror creatures, like void creatures in this. I really liked the world building. It reads a little bit YA in my opinion, but I had so much fun with this one. If you like an academy setting, if you're a really big world building person, this is such an amazing read. It's also a self-pubbed book, so it definitely deserves more hype than it gets. Next up, we have The Will of the Many by James Islington. I mean, I've raved about this book very often on my channel. I just loved it so much. This one comes out at 620 pages, so this one is a big boy, but time flies when you're having fun, and that was very true for this book. In this one, we're following Viz, I never remember names, so I always have to check them, who is an orphan, and he has been trying to live under the radar. He has been trying to not be seen because he doesn't want to have to give his will away. And in this world, the will is essentially your power, your essence, and you can give it to people so to make other people stronger. And the way the magic system works and the world building works is kind of like a pyramid or a pyramid scheme, in my opinion. One person has like 4 people ceding their will to them, and then that person is ceding their will to someone else. And so like you're just getting power from everyone who has been seated underneath you. Back to the plotline though, we end up following Viz, who ends up being adopted by like this prestigious man, which is not what he wanted, but he ends up going to this prestigious school and he is given the opportunity to be a spy because there's something going on at the school that this adopted father really wants to find out, but our main character doesn't know who to trust or anything, and he's still trying to figure everything out as he goes, and he's got secrets that he's trying to hide, and there's just a whole lot of secrecy happening. I truly just think the world building this is epic. I loved the character of Viz. I thought he was very endearing to watch. He was very smart. I really liked being within his mind, and highly recommend this one. It's so good. And our last for the fantasy category is The Book That Went Burned by Mark Lawrence. Whew. This one comes out at 560 pages. So not too terrible in my opinion. This one we're following 2 characters as well. I love a good 2 POV story. It makes it really easy to follow in my opinion. We are set in a magical library for this one, and the library is one of the coolest settings I've ever read. The library feels like its own character, which I think is a lot of fun. I loved learning about the different elements of the library and what things mean and all the reveals about like things in the library. I thought it was super cool. But we're following our 2 characters whose names are not on the synopsis. So we follow a boy who's lived his whole life trapped within a book-choked chamber older than the empires and larger than the cities, and then a girl who spent hers in a tiny settlement out in the dust where nightmares stalk and no one goes. The world has never noticed them, and that's about to change. We essentially follow these 2 characters across time and space as they connect with each other within this library and what that means for them and their personal journeys. This book, your mind will go highly recommend. I thought it was really well written. Let's do some romantasy. A chunky boy but worth every single page is Blood Mercy by Villa Roth. This is epic fantasy romantasy. Like if you've wanted a romance that also has high epic world building, this right here. I mean, it's 650 pages long, so there's room for a lot of that world building to happen. This is a vampire romance, but it's set in a new world. Like it is high fantasy. It's set not on Earth. The vampires are not what you've seen before. We follow Cassia and Leo as they first meet. Their species do not get along. However, the humans and the Hesperines, which are the vampires, have a truce that they made hundreds of years ago, and every like certain amount of years they come together to remake this truce and re-say like, we will not harm each other. So when they come together to do this at the solstice, Cassia and Leo meet and things start to blossom, things start to happen. They have a friendship that comes out of it, and we learn things about the king that aren't so great, and we learn some myths about the vampires, and I just think that this has such epic world building, and Leo is such a cinnamon roll character. I was shocked by how much I loved him as a male love interest. This is for those who want a friends to lovers vibe. It is so sweet, and Cassia is smart. I really like her. She's essentially the bastard princess, and so she's not really allowed to do anything because the king like looks down upon her, but she's also like an heir, so he kind of just keeps her like locked up essentially. I highly recommend this one. Next up is Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Rowick. I actually only give this one 3 stars, but I think a lot of people are going to love it more than me. This reads like fantasy with romance more than romantasy to me. It's 515 pages, so just crosses that mark for you. It read really quickly. I mean, the font was pretty big. The audiobook I also really enjoyed for this one. In this, we're following Scarlet, who is one of the most feared assassins. However, she's kind of tried to slip away from that assassin life, but the assassin lord doesn't want to let her go and gives her a deal of a lifetime. If she kills this one person, he will give her the information she's always wanted: how to get revenge against the person who killed her mother. However, lines are blurred, relationships are formed, and maybe this isn't the most accurate information to ever exist. I wanted a little bit more romance in this, so although I'm putting it in the romantasy category, I would like to warn people that it reads a lot more fantasy. However, I really did like the love interest in this. I really liked the plot in this. I really liked our main character Scarlet, who feels smart. She's got a lot of agency to her, and she makes like really good decisions, and she's got the ability to back up what she's saying because she is scary. Like, she is an assassin. So I would recommend Flame and Sparrow by S.M. Gaither. This boy feels long. I won't lie. This one feels a little bit long. This one is 670 pages, so it's not for your short loving friends, but it is worth it if you're willing to put the time into it. This follows our main character who watched her sister die on her 18th birthday and ever since then has blamed the gods for that. So her whole life revolves around revenge, and when the fire god shows up to her, she makes a deal with the fire god, pretending to be something that she's not, pretending to be loyal to him in order to take the gods down from the inside. However, when she gets to the god's land, when she starts to get to know the fire god and his friends, she was very, very wrong. Things are not what they seem, and she needs to correct her path quickly, but she started something bigger than herself, and it's gonna be hard to end. I loved the fire god in this. I loved the found family aspects in this. I will say the first half, not my favorite. It's a lot of world building, a lot of info dumping. But when you meet the fire god, hold it out till when you meet the fire god. Once you meet him, I was so obsessed. Like, once we're in the god land, chef's kiss. Loved this book. Such a vibe, and I flew through it after that. So I would definitely recommend this one. The Crown of Oaths and Curses by J. Bree. This one is 654 pages. However, it gets a little bit longer than that because I do recommend reading the 2 novellas, The Sword and the Scepter, before reading this. I definitely think you'll be a little bit lost without reading these, but I flew through this book. This was 5 stars, so much fun. I had such a good time with this. This is a true enemies to lovers. Like, these two hate each other. It's not just like a little bit of miscommunication. They hate each other, and it shows. And so how are they going to work their way through this hate, this prejudice? I do not know. We do not see it in book 1, so it's great. I love it. In this, we're following our 2 characters who are fated to be together, and in this world, you do not, at any cost, not listen to the fates because bad things happen. So when you're given a mate that you hate, when you're fated that this mate will help make everything better, you listen. Even though he's been killing off all the witches and you're a witch. You're the last witch of your line because the Fae have been killing them off and he's the prince of the Fae that's been doing all the killing. And even though witches have cursed the Fae and she's a witch and you're doing your best to kill all the witches so that the Fae are no longer cursed. How do they get past this? How? It's so good. Like, honestly, just thinking about this book and the story and the world building, the world building, there's such epic scale to this. When people talk about romantasy not having epic scale, I'm like, are you reading the same books as me? Because, like, this is not just all smut. There is an epic, epic world in this with more intricate world building than a lot of the fantasy I read. This, chef's kiss, please read. If you're an enemies to lovers girly, please read. But just so you know, you probably will hate some characters in this, but like a good hate because, like, they're just so frustrating. And next up, there's Heavenly Bodies by Amani Eru. This book is beautiful in my opinion. It comes out to a whopping 585 pages. Stunning, stunning quotes in this. Like, beautiful, beautiful writing in this. This follows our main character Alara, who is the princess of one kingdom, but there's a prophecy about her that she will fall for a star and it will kill them both. So in order to stop that from happening, a star, which is kind of like a demigod situation in this, comes down and kills Alara's entire family, being like, well, if I did this murderous thing, how could you ever love me? So Alara runs away and escapes because she does not want to be tortured by this star for the rest of her life, and goes to a neighboring kingdom and asks for an alliance to take down the star because everyone knows that this is not going to be such a good thing. She starts to train with the prince of this kingdom, and there's a little bit of reluctant allies there as she plots to take down the star that is ruling her kingdom now. This is like star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet almost style. I really, really enjoyed it. This does have a lot of tropes in it, but I really just like had such a good time. And the world building felt a little too epic. Like, there's a lot of world building in this that could have slowed down a little bit. I wish we had given more time with things. This could have been probably a trilogy in itself just for book 1. However, I loved it and I cannot wait to continue the series. I don't know how I haven't already. It's very pretty, amazing. Definitely recommend. So there's 10 books over 500 pages that I think are worth every single page. I hope you consider joining my team for the amazing Readathon. And if you'd like to continue watching videos from me, I'm going to leave one on the screen that I definitely think that you should check out. Probably big books on my TBR. These are falling over me, so I'm going to end this video here. If you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me a slug emoji.